All right. Welcome to A Day in the Life of the Asset Manager with Cindy Harding and Tyler Harding. Thank you guys for being here. Love having you. As you know, we moved this to once a month, so we are excited to dive a little bit deeper and give some more content than we typically did on the 15-minute call on our weekly call. So today, what we're going to do is some of you might have heard us talk about complex community. It is one thing that we are definitely known for and that we try to advocate for. Even if you're not a part of our properties, we would like you to implement this on the properties that you do have because it is such a good process to do for your apartment complex, for the tenants that live there, for the community that you're building, for the city, all of the above. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start real quick about qualifying the area that we're looking at, and then Cindy, when she's ready, she'll jump into the complex community. So what I love to tell people about kind of what we do, I don't know if this is the same ratios for you guys, but for me, I have about 100 apartment complexes that filter through my inbox before I pick one out that I'm like, yep, I'll start to underwrite that particular one. And then it takes me about 10 of those cherry picked ones before I'm like, oh, this is a great one. We should submit an LOI on this. So we're like pretty close to 1 in 1,000. It may be like 1 in 600. I don't know. It kind of depends on how many pocket deals I get, right? So I don't know if you guys are close to that ratio or not, but that's kind of what it looks like for me as far as filtering them out. So part of what we do when we're filtering those out is we look at a ton of different things. We look at, obviously, is it a profitable complex right away? Is it making money currently, or is it a sinking ship that we're trying to buy? The age of the unit, the city that it's in, is it a growing city? A lot of these things, what we can do is we can do the checking that out within the first like 15 minutes of getting that email. It's very, very quick. And as an underwriter, I look for the fastest way to say no. And so I'm going through this process, making sure that I can't say no to things before I get to the underwriting process. And one of the biggest things that we do is we take a look at the crime rate and the growth in that area. So has anybody here underwrote a property that it had, like, the underwriting looked amazing, but then when you looked at the city stats and the zip code stats, the crime rate was terrible? Has anybody
Yeah,
run into that?
yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I'd say probably like 1 in 3, 1 in 4 that I look at where I'm like, ooh, this could potentially be really good. And then I go and check out the crime and it's like, oh, it's just twice the murder rate of the US national average. So it's fine. It's always very, very interesting. Oh, I forgot to switch the view. I'm so sorry. I need to switch the view for when we're doing these. So yeah, when we are looking at the crime rates and kind of going through that process, it's always important to do that. So I use two tools when I'm looking at crime rate in specific areas. And I'd love to, if you guys have tools that you're passionate about, throw them in the chat. I'd love to see them. But I will show you guys the two that I use very specifically and how I use them. And I will give you the links for them too. So the first one is city data. Are you guys familiar with city data at all? That's like Neil Bawa's creme de la creme that he loves using. So city data, it really gives you a great breakdown of the actual city itself. Instead of just like a suburb or just a zip code, it's the whole thing. Kim, do you mind if I mute you? I'm just getting a little bit of feedback from you. Sorry.
Oh, okay, I'll do it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. All right, so city data, you can look up pretty much any city in the United States and be able to find something on that city. It really does make a huge difference when you're looking at those things. And so if you're looking up, like, for instance, let's just check out Tyler, Texas. you can look up all kinds of information when it comes to this in in lieu of crime, everything else too. So you have population, you have household income, you have pricing on housing, and it's all for the major metropolitan area of that city. And then you can get more granular if you want to. But I love this website. It shows you kind of where the trends are in a lot of things. And the way that you read this, right, is if it's two arrows up, that means that you have much more than the state average. So this looks at it from a city level and a state level. And so it kind of gives you a breakdown there. The other one that I really like to use is something called Nextburb. So yeah, let me drop these in the chat for you guys real quick so that you have them. And the reason that I love Nextburb is because Nextburb gives you a zip code breakdown. So sometimes it's really important to take a look at what does the city look like as a whole? Is it growing? Is it in the path of progress? Is there a ton of issues for the city itself? And then other times it's really good to look more localized. And so before you look up a zip code on Nextburb, look at the zip code. Is it this super big wonky zip code? Is it super tiny and shoved in the middle of the main part of the city? Or what does it look like? So you can get a kind of a bigger picture of what that is. But this one will give you a breakdown of a ton of different information. A lot of the same info as city data, but this one will also include a crime rate. And the way that you read this crime rate is the national average is 100, like one crime. Okay. So anything that's above that, so like this zip code that we were looking at here, 201. So 201 is twice the national average of crime. So if it was 50, it would be half the national average of crime. So don't be scared by the number right away. If you click on this compare zip code, you can see where these are actually issues. And so violent crime is one thing that we heavily look at. Assaults and murders and robberies and things like that, we don't want to see those more than about 100, 130 tops. The property crime, we can tolerate quite a bit of property crime because that's non-violent crime. That's the stuff that usually doesn't make the news or it's not a big headline. And we can overcome those things because what we'll talk about with complex community is we can control what happens inside of our own complexes, but we cannot control what happens across the street. And what happens across the street, if it's violent crime, you will never recover from that because your apartment complex will be on television and it's like, hey, check out this apartment complex. And here's where that violent crime happened. And it's just really not good. So we always check everything on multiple websites because, and I've said this a million times and I'll continue saying it, these are tools. They help you, but they are not perfect. They give you a good idea of what's going on, but it's not going to give you the complete answer. So use tools to help you, but don't rely on tools because sometimes they fail. So we look at all of these things because we want to make sure what we're getting is something that is going to be amazing for the tenants and for our investors and for the GP. We want to create win-win-wins. And part of those win-win-wins is finding a complex that we can come in, we can purchase it, and then we can implement our strategy of complex community. If it's a very violent area with very transient tenants, the things that we do to create that community are not going to work. And it's not what we are looking for to be able to asset manage. So that's part of our selection process is we are very picky about what we buy, not only because we need to see certain returns and we need to be, hitting these certain metrics and doing those things, but is this an area that lends to what we specialize in as asset managers in moving forward with that? So I have talked way too long. Cindy, can you talk to us about what is complex community? How does that work? Tell us a little bit more.
I hope you can hear me. I am kind of in a tunnel waiting for a ride. So what we specialize in is called from complex to community. Because when we buy a complex. That's all it is. Usually it is an apartment complex that the owner is ready to sell. They have run their business plan and they aren't doing deferred maintenance. They're not taking care of some things because they know that they're getting ready to sell and they really aren't involved. So that's typically what we find. That is a perfect prospect for us to implement this model that we have, which is called from complex to community. So we look at what is going on in the area. We look at what are the demographics. What do the people that live there, what are the amenities that they're getting? What amenities would they like? We often do a survey to find out what is lacking in that complex. And then there are 3 R's that we consider. So the first R is renewals. When you are looking at a property, renewals are going to be your best strategy for increasing the returns because you don't have to completely renovate. When they are renewing, what we do is we offer a renewal incentive. And so we'll do something that will increase the value of their unit. Typically, it will be a ceiling fan, it'll be a new faucet, it'll be LED lighting, it might be a smart thermostat, but we do something that is tangible that's going to increase the value of the unit. Now, there have been times that we've had people that have said, I would like my carpets cleaned. And if you'll clean my carpets, then I'll renew. That is not really tangible and it's not really part of our business plan. But guess what? We love renewals and we love residents who want to stay. And so we're going to clean those carpets. There was a gentleman who, for whatever reason, when he sat on his toilet, it rocked back and forth. And so he said, I will renew if you will replace my toilet. So you can imagine, we replaced the toilet. So we try to do it where it's around $100 for the renewal. And it allows us to say to that resident, we appreciate you. We are glad that you live here and we want to make the space that you're in a better space. And so this is what we're going to do for you when you renew. Sometimes our business plan is they're way below market. And so we do a rather large increase. And then once we have the property, then we just do the typical 2 to 3%. But we definitely work it in our business plan. Getting in, so it's much quieter. Those of you that know me know I do not like to drive, so I'm always the princess passenger. All right, get my seatbelt on. Okay, so we're very heavy in the renewals. Then the second R are referrals. And we achieve this through surveying our residents. So Tyler mentioned earlier, Tyler, Texas, and that's a property that we've just acquired. And so we're polling the residents. We have an area that is a basketball court. And we have been told by the on-site there that that actually isn't a very good amenity because there's not a basketball court close by. And so when the goals are up, the residents will invite their friends and then they come and they play basketball until all hours of the night. They have a lot of music playing and the residents are really not very happy with that. So they don't want it to be a basketball court. They just feel that that brings people into the community that they don't want there. So we do that with the residents. We want to know what else would you like. So we've given them some options. And then we also have asset management team where we're trying to put our heads together and see, what are some different options that we can offer. So that's the second R. And then of course, the third R is the returns for our investors. So by having the renewals, by having referrals, and we do a very strong referral plan. We typically do $300 for a referral. And the reason we do so much, and it's actually more than some of the property management companies that we have worked with, and we've told them we want you to increase it to 300. We do it for two reasons. They have to pay their rent on time to get it the following month, but also if you refer someone, you're going to make sure you pay your rent on time because you don't want to have, a delinquency note on your door. And then the person you've referred, you make sure they pay their rent on time. So we feel like that really helps our residents kind of help each other. And then we are always looking for ways to let the residents know that we really appreciate them. We appreciate that they live in our community. And honestly, we have a generation now that may never buy a home. They may always rent. And so we believe as high caliber multifamily and high caliber asset management that everyone has the right to live in a safe, beautiful place, no matter what your income level is. And so that's what we try to do is provide that for them. And we also want them to know their neighbors. We do at least 2 community events every month. The first one is a pay on time incentive. Could be very simple, where if they pay their rent on time, they come to the office, they get some sort of treat, they might get popcorn, sometimes we do pizza. We just do something that's very simple. Usually it's around $50, just to kind of give you an idea. And that's like maybe 100-unit complex. But we will do 2 or 3 in a year that are considerably more. And so one that we will do is we will do backpacks when it's time for school. In fact, I have my on-sites are sending me the number that they need because July Prime on Amazon is July 8th through 11th. So I have 4 days in order to order backpacks. So last week I knew when Prime was coming and I'm like, hey, I need the number that you need, because what we want to do is we want to let our residents know, we care about you. We understand that it's expensive to put children in school. And so we order backpacks and all the supplies that go in them. And then when they pay their rent on time, then they come and they pick up the backpack. So it takes off the table the question, am I going to pay my rent on time or am I going to get my kids ready for school? So that's one way that we try to really help our residents know that we are aware of them and their circumstance, and as we care about them. The other thing is we will do another event during the month. And that really depends too on what's going on. We'll have a big barbecue where we'll have the pool. We've done water games, just anything that we feel the residents will enjoy. I have one community that is a lot of retired people, and they wanted to learn how to make a charcuterie board. I'm not even sure that's how you pronounce it, but you guys know what I'm talking about. It's all the rage, and they wanted to learn how to do that. And so guess what we did? They learned how to make charcuterie boards. So we're always looking for things that they would like to do, things that they would like to come together as a community. And then we also work really hard on changing the perception of the leasing office. A lot of times they have lived in a complex a complex, and they only go there when they have a maintenance problem or they can't pay their rent. And we don't want that. We want them to know that the leasing agent is their advocate with us. They can go and they can talk with them and they can say, hey, I've been thinking about this, or could we do this activity? I knew that there were 2 incidents when I knew that 2 different complexes had reached community level. One was the onsite came to me and said, we have these residents, the same one that did the charcuterie board. They're older, they don't really travel, they don't go anywhere for Thanksgiving. And so we would like to do a Friendsgiving and invite everyone in the complex to come. And so we're like, awesome. We bought the meat and the paper products, and then they told everyone to make their favorite Thanksgiving dish and bring it. And they had a great turnout. And so that was one way I knew that that particular community had reached that level, that people were comfortable coming in, sharing ideas, and that they wanted to do things together. The other one was, it's a little bit bigger complex that is a community. And we had someone come in, the on-site called me and said, "You're not going to believe this." She told me the person, they came in and told me they were going to be late on their rent. And you guys, delinquency cost money because we're not getting the money in on time. And even though we do charge late fees, it just messes up with our cash flow. If you're, have $17,000 delinquent, that's going to mess you up. But she had a resident come in and say, "I just want to let you know I'm going to be late. This is when I'm paying it." And the on-site told me, "I know she will because she comes in and talks to me." And so they had developed a relationship. And so she didn't have to go chase her down. And that was important because that let us know, okay, this is when they're going to pay. And she did, she paid it. Now we are using AI at our properties. So I don't know if any of you guys have looked at that. Right now, what we're using is called Elise AI, and it's spelled ELISE AI. And honestly, people do not know that they're not talking to a human. It's very interesting. And, it's kind of fandangled thing to me because it's a little bit crazy, but it works. And so when someone calls, they go to the website and they call for the complex. It does go to Elise and we'll ask several questions. One of the things that we love using it for is we have a property that is extremely multilingual. So we have refugees that live there that come from different countries. And so what happens is they're able to say what language they want to converse in. So they're able to get information about apartments, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, what the rent is. They're able to get all this through this Meet Elise. And then they can go on and they can do an application and they can even book a tour. And the first property that we put this on, we weren't really sure how well it was going to work. It was a little bit of a trial, but I talked with the on-site, and within 2 weeks of having it up and running, she had people that had actually booked tours and came into the office. And that was the first time they had talked to a person. Now, if they ask a question that Elise cannot answer, they get transferred. So I don't want you to think that we give out misinformation or we just ignore the question. So if they ask a question that it's not in Elise's, realm to answer, they do get transferred to the on-site. But think of the time that has saved with the on-site, that this person has gone, they've talked through, asked the questions, and they've gone all the way to book a tour. So when they come, and all the information goes to the on-site. So she already knows their names, everything about them, but when they come in, she's expecting them and she's able to give them a tour and talk with them about what kind of apartment they're looking for, whatever it's a 1, 2, or 3 bedroom apartment. The other thing that Meet Elise does is delinquency. And so when they're delinquent, they will get a text to remind them that their rent is due. Also, we'll do follow-up emails. Text, we have found, has been the most effective. A lot of people don't really check their emails, but they will definitely look at a text. Even if they have it on their watch, they're going to look and see what it is. So that's kind of the constant nagger on that, is that she will every day send them a message, you need to pay your rent or come to the office and talk with the name of the on-site person. So we have found that has helped a lot. We do have people that pay on time with the on-time incentives. And then if they are delinquent, oftentimes they keep what their commitment is. And that's the other consideration that we run into with asset managing is working with the property manager to make sure that their word is kept. When they say we're going to pay on the 20th, that they actually do pay on the 20th. The flip side on that is we want to make sure we keep our word. So we have a policy that if they have a maintenance request, we have them put it in the portal. We use portals on all of our properties, different ones. So if you're ever trying to decide which one, you can give me a call and I'll give you my opinion. But we have about 5 different PM software that we work with. And we ask them to put it in the portal because when it's put in the portal, it is time stamped. We know when it has gone in. We know when maintenance has done it. We know what work was done. And then we often ask for them to let us know how they felt about the work that was done. The work should be done within 24 hours. And if it's not, it's because we're ordering a part or there is some extenuating circumstance. And then they let us know as the asset managers why this isn't being done within 24 hours. And if you think about it, if you are living, you go to work, you come home, you're trying to relax, and the kitchen sink is dripping and it drives you crazy. When it's time to renew, it's super easy to be like, you know what? They do not take care of this place. I am not interested in renewing. So we are very proactive with work orders. And then we also work with our leasing agent we do the property every day. Like every day the property is walked, trash is picked up. If there's anything that's kind of unsightly or needs to be taken care of, we try to address that immediately because we want people to go to work, come home, and love where they live. We don't want to have annoyances. We want them to be like, I love living here. I love knowing my neighbor. I love all the community events. We have a property that the onsite kind of goes above and beyond, and she does a birthday celebration every month. And she is able to send them a text at the beginning of the month, wishing them a happy birthday, and then letting them know. I think she does it on the 3rd Thursday, but it's a set day. And she'll say, please come by the office because I want to celebrate your birthday with you. And then she'll have cupcakes or cookies or something. And that's for the residents, for their children. And so she's constantly in contact with the residents. And that's what we want. We want them to know that we care about where they live. And there is, right now, multifamily is difficult as far as, people are unsure whether or not they want to invest, if this is something they want to get into. And that's why we strive really hard to do from complex to community. And that way they know that we have a pulse on the people that are living there. We understand what their needs are, and we're always looking at ways to improve. We had a property that we were not getting of tours. We couldn't, we're like, why are we not getting tours at this property? This was about 2 years ago. And at that time we didn't have a lease. And I started digging into the demographics, and we discovered that it was a heavy Hispanic population surrounding the apartment complex. And we were doing Facebook ads. That's probably our number one way of marketing is through Marketplace. And we were doing ads in English. We were not reaching the people that would want to live there, that worked in the businesses close to the complex. So we were not meeting the needs of the people in the area and the residents. So that's one of the things that we're always working on is getting more attuned to what's going on. And then we try really hard with making sure they know the things that are going on in the area. So not only is it their own community, but we will have the on-sites put up any kind of flyers. If there's a parade happening, anything that's happening in the town that they live in, we want to make sure that people know because we want to support that community as well. So Tyler, you have anything you want to add to that? I feel like I've been talking a lot.
Well, we did have one question. So Anthony asked, have you ever had anybody that spoke with AI on the phone and then came into the office expecting them to speak the same language and find out that that is not available?
Well, believe it or not, it is available. That particular property that has the multi languages, they have a Google Translate, and so they use Google Translate. So when they come in, they are able to do that, and they're able to get their paperwork in their language as well. Because honestly, a lot of these refugees on this particular property, we are their first stop when they come to the United States. They don't even go to a hotel. We have worked it out where people donate, items to furnish an apartment. And so this particular business is sponsoring them, and then people donate. So the apartment is all set up. And so instead of them going to a hotel for like a week, they actually go directly to the apartment. But most of them don't speak English or understand English. And we wouldn't want them to sign leases not knowing what they're signing. So we use Google Translate in that particular one. You guys can unmute yourself. Do you have any questions or things that you have seen or things that you would like to try?
I appreciate you working us in while you're traveling. We are grateful for that. Thank you.
Thank you. I feel like I'm always traveling. I think you guys have been on a couple of these calls where I've been in a hotel or in the airport. But yeah, we just happened to land like 10 minutes before this. So I told Tyler, I'll get on as soon as I can. But you guys know, I love asset management. It is such a passion of mine. And truly, I'm just going to get on my soapbox for just a little bit. Underwriters write the plan. And I love Tyler. He's my underwriter. He's my son. I love him. But when he comes up with a plan, I have to look at it and I have to see, can I execute this plan? Can I do what he is looking at? So I do my own market survey. When they say, oh, the rents are, $150 a month below, I have to call around. I have to hear myself. I have to know that we really can do that. And so it's very important as an asset manager to do that because you're the ones that go on and you're going to be working with the property. I heard Tyler at the beginning of this call say, I underwrite, so many properties. Well, he's underwriting, but guess what? I'm still with the ones he underwrote because I want to make sure we're making money. All right, go ahead, David.
Yeah, the question just it comes from going to apartment places on weekends and asking people there, hey, you all like living here? If they're seniors, then is there ever anything you do for seniors programs, access, that sort of thing? One of the things I was struck by at one of the fast track events down in Greenville, South Carolina, my schedule was a little bit changed because I didn't try to slip back in for breakfast with my wife. I got behind a school bus that stopped at complex after complex after complex after complex, long lines of kids and attractive moms and dads getting their kids on the bus. It reminded me of the private school that we took our son to, a long line of kids and attractive, and I didn't want to go to school. Has anybody tried offering tutors, any type tutor programs with those out there? And if so, how'd that go? I've found that there are some nonprofits that offer that. Our church actually does it for inner city kids in Hendersonville, North Carolina, just 4 days a week. So, come and get your homework done here so you can excel in school, type thing. Just get your
Right.
thoughts on it.
Yeah, it's such a good idea. We have a couple of things that we do that are not exactly that way, but we do support every summer, the local library has a reading program. And so we support that so much so that we work at, so our on-sites have 4 on-sites in this one particular town, and they will go and read during story time to the kids in the community because we want them to always be learning and reading. The other one is we have a community that's across the street from an Air Force base, And we are trying to work with volunteers from the base to come and do tutoring. And we actually have a community room. One thing we have to really think about just in this day and age is we have to make sure that the children are safe. And so this particular community, it has a community room adjacent to the leasing room, the leasing office. And so it has a huge window. So we could have someone come in there and tutor and have people there with them and still, because we would never send like tutor to someone's home. Like we wouldn't ever offer that. They would have to come to to the community center. And I do know we have several communities that the on-site part of her budget, because we give them a budget to work with, is part of their budget is they put snacks in their office. And so the kids come by the office when they get off the bus and get a snack. And we're okay with that because that's her budget to spend how she feels like will meet the needs of her residents. I would say his, but I don't have any male on sites. I'm sorry, but there could be male on sites and, whatever they feel works best for their residents, that's how they spend the money. And then usually twice a year, we do a breakfast on the go. And that's where we will have things ready. And the on-site will be right at the exit of the property. And as the people are leaving to go to work, they will stop by. They'll get a granola, a yogurt, a donut, a juice box, whatever for whoever's in the car. So we're always looking to do that. But I do think tutoring would be such a benefit. So we are working on it, but we haven't been able to quite nail that where we have it. But we are trying to get the Air Force Base to come over and tutor. And Anthony, do you have a question?
Actually, no, I got sidetracked and forgot what I was going to ask.
Oh, that's okay.
No, I was loving David's suggestion, and I do know there are some people that have done that. I think Chad and Lenny have done it at a couple of their properties.
Yeah. I probably need to talk with them to find out how, because especially at the property where we have so many languages, we literally are across the street from an elementary school, which works so good for these refugees coming in because typically one person has a job and the other parent takes care of the children. And so they can just walk across the street to the elementary school. So that is one area that we could really, really use some tutoring in. Go ahead, David.
Well, I was in ministry for 20 years before my body broke about 21 years ago. And so uh, I would never hesitate to call around churches and say, "Hey, does any of your churches ever do tutoring for kids over here? You get to know them, and who knows, one of them might visit your church. Does anybody ever do that?" And give them the ideas, give them the opportunity to think about it, see if, because on site is better. However,
Mhm.
there's virtual services that do it through computers. If somebody sets up computers, and there's nonprofit groups that provide that sort of thing. So I've heard of some folks using those what do you call it, remote services where they tutor people like this through Zoom, answering their questions, that type thing. But there's multiple ways to skin that cat. But I did find if you just Google, are there any, or ask ChatGPT, are there any nonprofit services that do tutoring for apartment complexes? You'll find them.
I am going to do that. Thank you so much for that suggestion. And I actually have a community that they hold a Sunday service in one of our community rooms. So that would be a good one to talk to because they're already coming on site and see if they have some sort of tutoring program. So thank you for that. I will definitely follow up. I'll let you guys know if we get this going. That would be really good, especially with school starting up.
That is one of my favorite things is we don't have all the answers to everything, right? Like we have done events, we know that certain things work, we know that certain things don't work, but I will tell you one thing that we do know for sure, we don't know
It's,
what won't work. And so we're
we don't
open
know
to
everything.
ideas from everybody of, hey, I think this is a great idea. So like one thing that I talked about at an apartment complex that I lived at was when the pool closed down, the day after the pool is closed, no one else is going to swim in the pool. My complex did a doggy swim. So you take your dog to the pool and you can go swim with your dog because they're going to go and clean the pool and drain it out anyways. And so that was their like giving a little bit back to the community. And I thought that was awesome because everybody knows no one loves your dog like you do. And that gives you the opportunity to go and swim with your dog. And that's just a great day. And so it's something that we've looked at potentially implementing this year into our apartment complexes. We don't know if it's going to be a success. It might not be a success at all 8 apartment complexes. It could be at 3 of them or 4 of them. It totally depends on demographics and everything that you have going on. And so there's not a cookie cutter one size fits all answer to every single complex, right? Like we want to create these communities. Every community is different.
I think we have one more question. Go ahead.
Well, I understand. I grew up in ministry. My dad was a youth minister and then a music minister, and I was a youth minister right out of college and then a worship pastor, that type thing. So we would have musical groups that needed places to go to sing. So they would go to, say, a seniors centers. You know, if you have seniors on the first floor, you could have an event, go have your kids sing to the seniors. And then as a reward, they get to play in the pool. They might meet some kids there and the kids might be excited about it. There's an insurance component to all of that. But it's just a way to get kids from that church to meet them, and then some of them might want to go visit the church sometime. There's a way to do it. We typically don't have pools at churches, so typically apartment communities do. I don't know. I can come up with 100 or 200 things, and I'll shut up with that one. But just what I'm trying to do is I haven't asked my minister friends that idea. Give me your thoughts on that because I would take kids out to go sing somewhere or perform part of a play, musical play somewhere, and then they get to go roller skating or go to a pool party or go to a big pizza, whatever, give them some kind of goodie. And to me, that's a way to draw out some of the youth there that might, I don't know if I want to go to the pool, this, that, and the other. Well, there's some extra kids coming. You might meet somebody, some friends. So I'm trying to get somebody else's feedback on how dumb is that thought. That's it.
I don't think it's a dumb thought at all. Like I said, I know we already have services at one of my communities. So that will be the first one that I'm going to talk with and find out. And especially, do they have, I know a lot of churches on Wednesday night have youth groups that meet. I mean, could that be something that they could come, and do something at the pool? I don't know. I think it's definitely worth asking the question. We probably would have to have some sort of waiver sign just because of the liability. We have to always make sure that we're protecting our assets, the property and our investors. But I think that's a really good idea. I know that my kids did go sing at retirement centers and I had boys. So, so they were able to go and they sang and they did stuff like that. So I think we are missing that component. And that's a very good way to also bring in the sense of community. So I'm going to give it a
Always
shot.
looking for a pool. Always looking for somebody with a pool where we could send the kids and have a pool party. Always looking for that.
Yeah.
The same.
Yeah. I'm going to talk to my on-site. I think she attends the church that comes. She's the one that, got them coming into the property on Sunday. So, and we did do a big Easter egg hunt. We had 400 eggs at one of the properties. So I know we're always looking for ways to get people together. Did you have an idea, Kim?
No, I had a question on a different topic.
Okay.
So I'm wondering if you've ever had a situation on any of your properties with tenants that are intoxicated and like if they might potentially be a liability going up and down stairs or anything like that, if there's anything that you do or don't do, you just let them do their thing, or how do you handle that?
So what we have found that works well for us is we find a police officer that lives on the property and we give them a concession. And so they usually get a 20% discount to live on the property and to agree to be the security for the community. And then They will walk the property at night just to make sure everything's kind of buttoned up. They also are who the on-site calls first if there's an issue, and then they take care of it. We did have someone, it was, I think it might have been 4th of July on Memorial, a couple of years ago. He was looking for, there was a guy, he wasn't a resident. He was looking for a particular person and was just going door to door at like 11 o'clock at night and knocking on the doors. So we called the security officer. He went, they got into a little tussle. The property's on a hill. They rolled down the hill, tussling, took out a fence. In the end, he handcuffed him, put him in his car, took him to the station. And this person that was literally trespassing had to pay for the fence. So we find that that works really well. And it only takes like 1 or 2 little things and people realize, hey, they're not tolerating this on the property. We have had a couple of people that did get into an altercation on the property and, you know, they go to jail. You can't do it. So that's what we have found. And you can just go when you find, you know, a complex that you're looking at, see how far it is away from the nearest police station, and you can go in. If you think about officers first starting out, you know, everyone starts out at a base level. And so, and they're the ones that are usually in a marked car on patrol. And so those are the ones we want. We want a marked car. We want them to park and have, you know, the car there. And we give them a discount. I have one security officer. I've had the same one at this complex for 5 years. And he was there before we bought the complex. So, you know, it's just, it's good. It's a good thing to have. It's good for people to see and for them to know. But I think as we do, you know, people take ownership when they feel connected to where they are. And I think that's part of it. I mean, get back to the referral program. What if that was someone that you had referred? You know, you're like, don't ever do that again. You know, we're going to get evicted. So I just feel like people take responsibility and they want it to be safe. They want it to be a nice place to live. But we always look for a security officer.
Okay, thank you. Yeah,
You're welcome.
I didn't know, you know, you don't want to cross those boundaries of interfering with people's rights. If somebody wants to have a beer or something, like nobody cares. But I was thinking of the liability issues of somebody falling down the stairs or like you're saying, getting into altercations or things like that. So I appreciate your answer.
Yeah, no worries. And I mean, if they do fall down the stairs and, you know, they need to have someone taken to the hospital or whatever, then we're going to get the report. And then, you know, we're going to know that they were intoxicated. So they're liable, not us.
Oh,
But
okay.
if someone did, let's say someone did fall down the stairs or they did get hurt on property, you have insurance. I mean, that's part of your ownership is you have umbrella, you have liability. And so, you know, we protect ourselves as owners and we especially protect our investors. So that's part of your insurance. And then you just have to make the decision, you know, is it something that we're going to pay out of pocket or is it going to meet our deductible? This isn't like someone being a nuisance, but we did have an apartment that caught on fire. And so then we had to decide, you know, are we going to pay for the repairs out of pocket or are we going to file it on our insurance? So you have to make those calls. A lot of it depends on how much it is. And you
Oh,
also
yeah.
have to remember when you file a claim, you guys that are underwriters know that we always want the lost runs for the last 5 years. So that's another thing you have to take into consideration.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Go ahead, David.
Probably just 2 last ideas. One, ping pongs off what you're talking about, the officers. If you advise is okay to just send the property manager to go by the local law enforcement, the sheriff's office, police office, say, hey, we offer a discount. If anybody ever wants to come here, we would love to have you. And if you guys are ever out at night and the donut shop is closed and you need to use the bathroom, the potty, you got to take all that stuff off. We would love to give you a code to get into our restroom at the pool. And that way you have the
Exactly.
officer you have the officer's car there late at night. I mean, how good does that make the people feel that, they stop in and out whenever they want to? I don't know. Is that something that's okay?
Yeah, we actually we create a flyer and we take it and ask them to put it in the break room so
Yeah,
that
yeah.
we're not having to rely on, the guy at the desk to relay the information. So we just put flyers up that we're, looking for someone to live at our community. And then, yes,
Well,
absolutely. And then we
bathroom
also
break.
have them, yeah, they can come by, or even during the day. Like I said, my on-sites, they like to have snacks and they all have coffee pots. So, they can come by and get a cup of coffee and stop by for a visit. So absolutely, that's a good idea.
Have you heard of apartmentlife.org? Because they're actually looking for apartment communities to send somebody out to. They're your welcome wagon guy that does one event per month for the community and welcome and answers people's questions. And they work for this nonprofit ministry, and it's a free resource if anybody's interested in that.
I'll look up apartment living. So it is called apartmentliving.com,
Apartmentlife.org.
apartmentlife.org.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they
Yeah.
are looking to send people out and work in apartment communities because 94% of apartment dwellers are non-church. So the church community sees it as an unchurched people group to reach. So Apartment Life is a nonprofit founded to try to help with that. And they just act as the welcome wagon. They don't bring up any of their church stuff, but they're just very welcoming, very helpful. And it's just an extra free resource. I mean, you can go to the level of giving them a discount and they do more things for that, like the police. But anyways,
Mhm.
they're out there, apartmentlife.org. They're looking for places to go.
I will look into that, especially for my community has so many refugees. We're always looking to try and help people with that. So, all right. Anything else before we sign off? Well, thank you guys so much. I hope this has helped you get you thinking about when you're looking at the underwriting and what are the things that we can do to really build a community, because that's what's going to pay off in the end. We don't want revolving doors. It's expensive. When people move out, you have to either renovate the unit, depending on how long they've been there, or turn the unit. That costs money. And we really want people to love where they live. And it's up to us to create that. So we're going to give you all the tools we can. And thank you for the tools that I was given today. I'm going to follow up on that. And maybe we'll do that on another call. We'll talk about how those things shook out. So you guys have a great day.
Thank you.